everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renee Jordan, and today we are going to continue with our interaction lessons. We're going to take a look at the next one. And so, once again, I've done some pre-populated answers. I'm not going to be able to get through all of them today, but we're definitely going to get started. We have more stories than usual, and so I want to give them all a read. However, if you choose to do this activity on your own, you are welcome to select whatever portions of the lesson that you want to engage. The stories are to help set the background or the backdrop or to give you insight on some of the possibilities and opportunities when we're talking about digital literacies. So let's go ahead and get started by going to the Black-Liberation.Tech website. All right, so here we are on the Black-Liberation.Tech website. We're going to head on over to the English version. I was looking at the Spanish version apparently, and go to lessons. And from lessons, we're going to scroll on down to interactions. And so interactions, once again, is talking about digital literacies. And so we're going to select the next lesson, which is D1.1, a conversation for the future. And so here we have the lesson and we have some instructions. So we'll start off with the instructions. Instructions for exploring lesson. In this lesson, you have the opportunity to read one or more stories, each focusing on key digital literacies. You may choose to read as many stories as you like, depending on your interests and the time available. Each story integrates specific digital literacies that will help you enhance your skills in today's digital world. And so here we have the list of different stories that we'll read today. So, a conversation for the future, navigating the future of technology, empowering through code and creation. And number 4, using research and leverage to build digital futures. So, let's go ahead and continue on with the instructions. Feel free to explore as many stories as you like and be sure to apply what you've learned to your projects and personal growth. Once you are done, go through the lesson overview and move on to complete steps 1 through 5. Note, this lesson may take more than one sitting to complete. So keep in mind to pace yourself, save your work as you go, and set time aside to revisit the lesson as needed. Okay, so here we go with the first story, a conversation for the future. And so this image was generated by ChatGPT. And for those of you who are listening as opposed to watching, it has an image of a group of women working together in a library using digital tools to collaborate and share ideas. This image highlights the power of digital literacy and teamwork in a learning environment. All right, so here's the setup. A group of young girls and their mothers sat in a brightly lit room, ready to learn from some of the most innovative professionals in tech. Tia, a product solutions manager and web development instructor, opened the session with a big smile. Tia: all right, ladies, today we're diving into the world of digital literacies. It's about understanding and using technology in ways that help us grow, create, and connect with others. Now, I know that word might sound fancy, but trust me, it's not as complicated as it seems. Let's break it down and explore it through some real world stories from the people in this room. Jasmine, a MarTech publicist, raised her hand, eager to chime in. Jasmine: digital literacies are a lot like being flexible. You know, I remember when I first started, everything was about adapting. When I was a kid, I spoke Spanish, and when I came to school, I had to learn English, just like how I had to learn tech skills later. I had to adapt to this whole new language, not just of words, but of technology. I didn't just learn English. I had to learn how to use the internet, how to message, how to email, and I had to keep that mindset, always adapting to whatever tech comes next. The girls nodded, some of their mothers glancing over, intrigued by how Jasmine had connected language learning with digital fluency. Tia smiled at Jasmine's point and turned the conversation to the next theme. Tia: exactly, Jasmine. You've got to keep adapting, but sometimes adapting means you have to be willing to try new things, right? And that's something we all can do. Nicole, you want to jump in here? Nicole Bakula, a UX researcher, leaned forward, a thoughtful expression on her face. Nicole, yeah, absolutely. You see, trying different things is key. Like, I remember when I was working on a project for a startup in Puerto Rico. I didn't know much about the tools they were using, but I didn't let that stop me. I decided to try things out on my own. I learned about new platforms, tested out designs, and kept an open mind. When you're in tech, you have to get comfortable with uncertainty. Trying new things gives you a chance to see what works, what doesn't, and what might be the next big thing. Tia nodded, then added, that's the spirit. It's like when we try new software or learn to use new social media platforms, you might not be great at first, but as long as you're trying and learning, you're on the right track. Ebony, a grassroots organizer, jumped in, excited to contribute. Ebony, yeah, I love what both of you all are saying. When you're doing digital marketing for an event or campaign, you've got to be willing to try different approaches. Just like when we set up that virtual event for a community initiative, it was a huge learning curve. But we couldn't just rely on what we knew. We had to experiment with different platforms, tools, and methods. We had to keep testing and changing things until it worked. And it was all about adapting to new tech and trying out ways to make it work for our audience. Jaleesa, a digital marketing campaign manager and research scientist, smiled at Ebony's point and added her thoughts. Jaleesa, I totally agree. Trying new things is about learning and growing. There's always something new to try, whether it's new tools for digital marketing or something as simple as changing up the way we create content. For me, I've learned that you can't be afraid to fail, especially when you're using tech in new ways. You've got to embrace it, test it, and improve. Tia smiled at the group, feeling the energy in the room. Tia, this is exactly it. Now, let's talk about implementing. When you've adapted and tried different things, the next step is to actually implement what you've learned. Tia's always talking about this, right? Tia grinned, always ready to share her passion for implementation. Yep, implementing is the part where you take everything you've learned and make it happen. Whether you're launching a website, starting a campaign, or trying out new tech tools, you have to make it work. For example, last year I taught a webinar on Google Analytics. It was super technical, but I took everything I learned and applied it. I didn't just listen to the theory. I went out there, started using it, and tested it. And now it's one of the most powerful tools in my toolbox. You can't learn if you don't implement. You've got to take action. Nicole smiled, proud of Tia's enthusiasm, and added her own twist. Nicole, for me, it's about refining the process. After I try new things, I take what works and use it in my work. I always say, don't just keep learning, implement and improve. For example, when I started researching UX for mobile apps, I didn't just read the books. I went out, applied what I learned, and tested it on users. That's when it clicked for me. Only when I implemented what I learned did I truly understand the process. Charlene, a founder of a cultural sensitivity marketing firm, nodded thoughtfully. Charlene, I didn't have a tech background when I started. I had to fake it till I made it, honestly. My first job was in publishing, and when I got there, they handed me a computer. I didn't even know how to use it, but I had to learn quickly. From there, I implemented everything I learned in digital marketing. I built websites, managed campaigns, and now I'm helping other businesses do the same. I can't tell you how important it is to try, adapt, and implement. Without that, I wouldn't be where I am today. The group of girls and their mothers were soaking it all in, and Tia smiled warmly at them. Tia, that's why we're all here, ladies, to teach you how to adapt to the digital world, try new things, and implement them confidently. Technology can seem overwhelming, but it's all about learning how to use it in your favor. You can adapt, try, and implement too. Jasmine leaned in and offered one final piece of advice. Jasmine, don't forget, learning never stops. Whether you're a professional or just starting out, stay curious, stay adaptable, and always try new things. It's what'll keep you ahead. Tia, exactly. Digital literacies aren't just about being good with tech, they're about staying flexible, staying excited to learn, and being ready to make things happen. So, who's ready to implement something new today? The room buzzed with energy as the girls and their mothers began brainstorming ideas for their first digital projects, feeling empowered to step into the future with confidence. All right, so the next one here, story number 2, navigating the future of tech. And so this has an image for those of you who are listening once again and not watching on the Black-Liberation.Tech YouTube channel. A team of professional women collaborating in a modern office environment using digital tools and data visualization to drive innovation and creativity. This image highlights the intersection of technology, design, and teamwork in a contemporary workspace. And I must say, their hair is fabulous, and I like their outfits too. All right, so here's the setup. The meeting room buzzed with energy as a group of professionals gathered around the table, each one representing a different facet of the digital world. It was time to plan the next steps for the Black-Liberation.Tech open educational resource, and everyone had something to say. Tia, the product solutions manager, kicked off things, her voice filled with excitement. Tia, all right, y'all. I think we're all in agreement that digital literacies need to be the heart of our next set of lessons, right? We want our participants to get hands-on experience with tools and platforms that'll help them thrive in today's tech world. We've got to teach them to publish, pivot, and analyze. Those are the big three, no doubt. Nicole Bakula, the UX researcher, nodded thoughtfully. Nicole Bakula, absolutely. Publishing is huge. We need our students to understand how they can create and share their own digital content, whether it's a blog post, a video, or a social media campaign. It's about empowering them to put their work out there, to claim their space in the digital world. Jasmine, the MarTech publicist, leaned forward, her experience in marketing and storytelling coming through in her words. Jasmine, but here's the thing. Publishing isn't just about creating stuff. It's about getting it out there in a way that speaks to the audience. I've had to adapt to new tools all the time, whether it's social media platforms or content creation software. And it's not always smooth sailing. I've learned to pivot fast, especially when things don't go as planned. It's all about being flexible. Ebony, the grassroots organizer, chimed in from across the table. That's real, Jasmine. And what you said about pivoting really hits home. We need our girls to understand that the tech landscape is always changing. One minute, something's trending, and the next minute, it's out of style. I think a big part of digital literacy is knowing how to adapt quickly, like when Facebook wasn't cutting it anymore, and we had to jump on Instagram and Twitter. Charlene, founder of a cultural sensitivity marketing firm, smiled, recalling her early days in publishing. Charlene, I've been in this game a long time, y'all. I remember when the internet was still new. My first job in publishing, I had no idea how to use a computer. It was embarrassing, but it pushed me to learn. You got to be willing to fail forward and try new things, just like Tia said. It's not enough to just know how to publish. You've got to be able to pivot with the times. Jokey, a digital marketing advisor, picked up on Charlene's point. Jokey. And that brings us to analysis, right? You can't just publish and pivot without understanding what's working and what's not. You need to analyze the data, track engagement, measure success, and figure out where to adjust. Whether you're looking at website analytics or social media insights, being able to analyze data will set you apart in the tech world. Dominique, a software engineer, leaned back in her chair, thinking about the technical side of things. Dominique, right. Analyzing data isn't just for marketers. As a software engineer, I'm always looking at how users interact with the tools I build. The data tells you a lot about what's working and what needs fixing. Same goes for the girls we're teaching. They need to understand that data isn't just numbers, it's information they can use to make decisions and improve their work. Jaleesa, the digital marketing campaign manager and research scientist, took out her phone and pulled up some analytics. Jaleesa, exactly. And that's why we need to teach our girls how to analyze digital interactions and use those insights to improve. Like when I run a campaign, I'm constantly looking at numbers. What times are people engaging? What kind of posts are they responding to? If you can't analyze, you can't grow. The group went silent for a moment, each member thinking about the lessons that were about to unfold. The power of digital literacies, publishing, pivoting, and analyzing, was clear. But the challenge was in translating these concepts into actionable lessons for the after school program participants. Tia. So here's what I'm thinking. For the publishing part, we can get the girls to create their own blog posts or videos on a topic they care about. They'll learn how to use platforms like WordPress or YouTube and understand the importance of consistency in publishing content. Nicole Bakula. And for pivoting, I love to see them experiment with different digital tools. Let them try a few apps, maybe a new photo editor or a new video editing tool. Have them document their learning process and what works for them. They'll see how pivoting to a different tool can improve their work. Jasmine. For analysis, we can give them some real world case studies. Show them how companies track digital metrics and how those metrics shape marketing decisions. Then we can have them analyze their own content, track engagement, and adjust their strategy based on what they find. Charlene, we also have to remember that the digital world is constantly evolving. We need to teach them to be resilient, to have that mindset where they're always ready to try something new and embrace change. That's how they'll keep up with tech. Dominique, that's key. They have to be comfortable with failure too. When something doesn't work, they need to pivot and analyze what went wrong and figure out how to improve. Failure isn't the end, it's a part of the process. Jaleesa, and through all of this, we need to keep it real. The lessons should reflect the lived experiences of our girls, especially in communities of color. They should see how digital literacies are not just about tech skills. They're about having the agency to create, adapt, and thrive in a digital world that often overlooks them. The group nodded in agreement. They all had their roles to play, but together they were building something much larger than a curriculum. They were giving young Latinas and Black girls the tools they need to navigate a digital world that could both empower and challenge them. Tia, all right, team, we've got our work cut out for us, but I think we're on the right track. Let's make sure we're teaching them how to publish, pivot, and analyze. That's how we'll set them up for success in the digital age. The conversation flowed seamlessly as they continued to refine their plans. Each voice, unique in its perspective, came together to create a vision that was both practical and aspirational, a blueprint for empowering the next generation of Latinas and Black women in tech leadership roles. And as they wrapped up the meeting, one thing was clear. Digital literacies were not just skills, they were tools for liberation. All right, here we have the third story, empowering through code and creation. And for those of you who are listening and are not watching, we have an image here that was also created by ChatGPT, and it says, a virtual meeting with a group of women professionals in tech, including CTOs, data scientists, and founders collaborating from different locations. This image showcases the power of digital communication and women leading in tech industries. All right, so here is the setup for this story. The conference call room was filled with faces of funders, each eager to hear how the team of experts plan to empower young girls and their mothers through the Black-Liberation.Tech open educational resource. At the forefront of the conversation was Tia, the product solutions manager and a web development instructor, who was leading the discussion on how digital literacies, specifically code and create, would form the foundation of their after school program. Tia. All right, y'all, let's get this show on the road. We're here today to talk about how we plan to use digital literacy, specifically code and create, to make a lasting impact on the girls and their mothers. This isn't just about learning tools, it's about giving them the power to control their own digital worlds. We're going to teach them to code, build websites, create digital content, stuff that'll help them build their futures. But we need the right tools to make it happen. She shared her excitement as she introduced the team, each expert bringing a unique perspective on the importance of digital literacies. Nicole Bakula, the UX researcher, was quick to jump in. Nicole Bakula. As someone who's been deep in the UX space, I could tell learning to code was a genuine game changer for me. It wasn't just about writing HTML as a teenager for fun. It sparked my interest in creating digital experiences that people could use and enjoy. And that's the mindset we need to teach these girls. We're not just teaching them to write lines of code, we're teaching them to design their digital lives, whether they're making a website or even a digital brand. Jasmine, the MarTech publicist, nodded in agreement. Jasmine, exactly, Nicole. And once they learn the code, they need to know how to create with it. We're talking about creating digital content from social media posts to full-fledged websites that will allow them to build their own brands. It's important that they understand that they can be creators, not just consumers. I mean, I work in digital marketing every day. I know how crucial it is to brand yourself, and it's something that can change your whole trajectory. Nadine, the UX designer, added, when we talk about creation, I think it's essential that they not only understand how to use the tools, but why certain designs work better for certain audiences. They need to know how to create for a digital environment, whether it's making an interactive website or designing a brand's visual identity. It's about building confidence through creating. Ebony, the grassroots organizer, leaned forward, her passion for community work evident in her words. I love the idea of bringing mothers into this too. It's not just the girls who need these skills, it's the whole family. Teaching them how to create content, use digital platforms for advocacy, or even just managing their online presence is going to be so valuable. These skills will help them in the workforce and they'll see the direct impact in their day to day lives too. Tia, exactly, Ebony. So, as we plan these lessons, we're making sure that we have everything in place. First, we'll need laptops and internet access. We'll be teaching coding through a hands on approach. I'm talking about tools like Scratch for beginners and then moving into more advanced platforms like Code Academy or Free Code Camp. We'll teach HTML, CSS, and eventually JavaScript so they can make their own websites. Joki, the digital marketing advisor, jumped in with a smile. Joki. And let's not forget the power of social media. These girls are going to need the right tools to create content that looks professional and cohesive across platforms. We're talking about Canva, Adobe Spark, and other design tools that let them create digital content easily. Plus, we'll use platforms like WordPress for them to build their own blogs and websites. It's one thing to learn the skill, but it's another to actually have a place to showcase them. Dominique, the software engineer, chimed in. Dominique, yes, I'm all for showing them the ropes of coding, but we need to give them the space to experiment. That's why we'll use interactive platforms like Repel.it and Glitch. These will let them practice writing code in real time and see their projects come to life instantly. The more hands-on they are, the better. Jaleesa, the digital marketing campaign manager and research scientist. Nodded. Jaleesa. And as they create their content, we'll make sure they're not just focused on the technical aspect. We'll have them focused on crafting a story, whether it's for a blog post, a YouTube video, or a social media campaign. They'll need to understand that what they're creating has a purpose. It's about learning how to communicate clearly and effectively across different platforms. Charlene, the founder of the cultural sensitivity marketing firm, wrapped up the discussion with her unique perspective. Charlene. And I think it's essential that they learn how to use these skills to connect with others. Content creation isn't just for showing off, it's about building a community, whether it's through a blog, a social media post, or a video. These girls will learn how to use digital tools to share their stories, connect with people, and grow their network. Tia, exactly. This program is about giving them the tools they need to thrive in a digital world. We'll teach them to code and create, but we'll also teach them to collaborate, adapt, and continuously learn. With the right tools, guidance, and mindset, they'll have everything they need to succeed. As the call continued, the team made plans to implement the lessons and set up interactive learning spaces. It was clear that the foundation of the program, focusing on code and create, would provide the participants with valuable skills that would not only empower them in their personal and professional lives, but also give them the confidence to navigate and shape the future of technology. With the right resources and support, these girls and their mothers would be ready to take on the digital world. All right, so let's take a look at the fourth and the final story for today. Story number 4, using research and leverage to build digital futures. So we have another image here created by ChatGPT, and here's the caption for it. A dynamic team of women working together in a modern office setting using digital tools and collaborations to drive creativity and innovation. This image highlights the power of teamwork and digital literacy in the professional world. Here's the setup. Okay, the team gathered in the modern office, buzzing with energy. The Black-Liberation.Tech open educational resource was coming to life, and the mission was clear: empowering girls and their mothers to use their digital literacy specifically to research and leverage the tools and networks that would open doors to their futures. Tia kicked off the session, leaning forward in her chair with her laptop open, ready to share her thoughts. Tia, all right, let's dive in. We've got this incredible opportunity to teach the next generation of Black and Latina women how to own their digital spaces. We're talking about research and leveraging networks, skills, and technology in ways that'll really level the playing field for them. This is beyond just using the internet. It's about being strategic, knowing how to find the right info, and using the right tools and connections to elevate themselves. Nicole Bakula, the UX researcher, nodded, her eyes lighting up with agreement. Nicole Bakula. Exactly. Research is the backbone of what we do every day in UX design. Whether I'm choosing between different platforms or evaluating user behavior, it all comes down to the ability to dig deeper, ask the right questions, and connect the dots. I've spent years honing my research skills, whether that's through usability testing, analyzing data, or working with platforms like Maze.co and user testing. But what I love the most is how research empowers you to make informed decisions. And I think these girls will really benefit from understanding how to do this for themselves. Jasmine, the MarTech publicist, added with enthusiasm. That's true. I mean, I landed my first job through research too. I was digging into the kind of people I wanted to work with, doing the legwork, researching organizations that aligned with my values, and just putting myself out there. It's so much about connecting and finding people with similar goals, right? Technology is a tool that closes the gap, helps people from small towns to large cities access bigger networks and ideas. Tia, that's exactly it. Research isn't just academic. It's about finding information that will propel you forward. And when it comes to leveraging those networks, That's where the magic happens. It's about finding the right people, asking the right questions, and putting yourself in the position to succeed. Nadine, the UX designer, jumped in, her voice thoughtful. Nadine, for me, it's about curiosity. I'm always researching whether it's a tool, a design principle, or a way to better engage people. I was just telling the team the other day about this tool called Mural, visual collaboration software. It changed the way I worked remotely. Before, I was doing the same things, but now with this tool, I can bring people together digitally in a much more engaging and creative way. Research is crucial to keep evolving and improving, whether it's for design or understanding people's needs. Tia, I love that. And that's the kind of mindset we need to instill in the girls. They'll need to use platforms like Mural to work on group projects, whether they're designing websites or developing digital content. They need to see that the tools they use aren't just there to consume, they're there to create. And for me, that's what leveraging networks is all about, using the knowledge we gather and the tools we have to build something bigger. Jaleesa, the digital marketing campaign manager and research scientist, chuckled as she added her 2 cents. Jaleesa, you're speaking my language. I mean, how many times have we all researched ways to get our work noticed? We use social media to create our personal brand, build our networks, and engage with our community. And now we're going to teach the girls how to use these platforms in strategic ways, how to find mentors, network with industry professionals, and leverage digital spaces to share their work, their ideas, and their voices. It's all about using these platforms as tools to amplify their message. Charlene, founder of the cultural sensitive marketing firm, leaned back in her chair and smiled at the team. Charlene, and the beauty of it is that research isn't just something you do alone. You can leverage the power of collaboration, whether it's finding a mentor through LinkedIn or working on a project with others in a digital space. We're showing them how to use the information they find to collaborate, co create, and push their ideas further. Research and leverage work hand in hand. Dominique, the software engineer who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. Dominique, right. And let's not forget about the tech side of things. I mean, these girls will need to know how to access and use tech platforms to make their research actionable. Whether they're using Google Scholar to find research papers or learning to use coding platforms like GitHub to test and share their work, it's all about accessing the right tools and using them effectively. The more they understand how to leverage what's out there, the better positioned they'll be to make a real impact. Ebony, the grassroots organizer, nodded, her voice full of conviction. Ebony, absolutely. The power of technology is that it democratizes access. These girls and their mothers are going to learn how to tap into these resources to empower themselves and their communities, whether it's leveraging social media for activism or using design tools to create business. They'll be in control of their digital narrative. Tia. So, as we plan the lessons, I think it's clear we need a solid blend of research based learning and teaching them to use those findings to leverage opportunities. We'll use tools like Google for research, Mural for collaboration, and platforms like user testing to help them test their work and ideas. And the best part, they'll get to do it all in a supportive environment, learning from each other and their mentors. Nicole Bakula, that's the key. Research empowers. Leveraging those results can create something meaningful. That's where the real impact happens. Tia, and that's exactly what we're going to teach them. Research and leverage, the foundation for building a powerful digital future. Let's make sure we equip these girls with not just knowledge, but the tools and networks to make their mark. The team paused, each person reflecting on the profound impact the program would have. With their combined expertise, they were ready to create an after school program that would teach young girls and their mothers how to thrive in a digital world. one where they were not just consumers, but creators, thinkers, and innovators. All right, and this last image that we have for the lesson is of a dynamic group of young women in a library using digital tools to collaborate on a project. The image showcases the importance of teamwork, creativity, and digital literacy in a modern learning environment. All right, so here is the lesson: creating and completing a project for your personal, academic, or professional journey. Here's the overview. In this lesson, you will use your answers to the guiding prompts to generate ideas for a project that aligns with your personal, academic, or professional goals. You'll learn how to adapt to new tools, try different approaches, and implement strategies that will help you complete the project successfully. By the end of the lesson, you will have a clear action plan and a set of resources to help you complete your project objective. By the end of this lesson, you will have identified a project based on your career or academic journey, generate prompts for ChatGPT to assist you in creating your project, and step-by-step instructions. Learn how to find successful women in similar fields to gain insights and inspiration. And lastly, by the end, you will also have found resources to help you acquire the skills needed to complete your project. Okay, so here's step number 1: reflect and writing prompts. Examples of digital literacies. Review the examples of digital literacies from the list below. Select 5 to explore further throughout the lesson. Based on your selections, reflect on corresponding prompts and write out your responses. You may use those selected or choose new ones later on in the lesson. You are welcome to skip any of the prompts that do not apply and jump to the guiding questions for online search to learn more about how others demonstrate the digital literacies. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to read through the list and then I'm going to share the ones that I've selected. So the first one we have is adapt, next, analyzing, next, data analysis, next, deliver products, next, deliver services, researching, pivot, publish, code, create, implement, leverage, design research, qualitative aspect, self-publishing, try different things. Okay, so for this lesson, I have selected the following. I selected researching, implement, deliver products, data analysis, and create. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with researching, and I will read the prompts and then go over my responses. So here's what we have for researching. How do you conduct digital research? What tools or strategies do you find most helpful? Can you think of a time when thorough digital research helped you make a better decision or solve a problem? How can you improve your researching skills to stay ahead in your academic or professional pursuits? Here's the guiding question for online search. Search for methods and resources that successful women, and I'll say specifically Latinas, Afro-Latinas, and Black women in research fields use to improve their researching skills. Okay, and so next I'll share my response. So when I conduct digital research, I look up things using Google. For academic research, I primarily use library database systems and academic-focused open access resources. I go down the rabbit hole of looking up specific scholars who work in areas and disciplines of interest. When I research products, services, hotels, restaurants, and things of that nature, I also use Google and check out the ratings. One of my favorite places to go when I'm looking for different types of services is Yelp. For tech products and tools, I also look at the ratings. So I'll even ask in Google, how does this compare to that? When I'm researching, I'm interested in the experiences of others. For example, when I was looking for an attorney for my estate planning, I received a reference from a speaker of a workshop. I received an initial quote from that reference, But by the time I was ready to move forward, she moved on to a different specialty. So I looked up different attorneys in my area on Yelp, checked out the reviews, and then I reached out to two attorneys in particular and moved forward with the one who was responsive to my inquiries. She actually returned my call. So I left a voice message and she returned my call. And that's the person who I went with. I had a great experience with her. To stay ahead in my professional pursuits, I can keep an eye out on what others are doing as it relates to AI in different fields. It's not just about AI specific to academia, but how AI is impacting all areas of life. So I can think about how I want to engage with AI now and in the future. Okay. And so for the guiding question, I did a general Google search. And once again, I made it more specific by saying Latinas, Afro Latinas, and Black women. And so the piece that I thought was interesting from my search that I want to share with you is this response. So, one of the things that Google says Latinas, Afro Latinas, and Black women do, they leverage professional and community networks. And so it says establishing and engaging with both formal and informal networks provides guidance, resources, and a vital sense of belonging that can mitigate feelings of isolation. Community building. Strong networks help researchers build community and collegial relationships, which is especially important in the often individualistic culture of academia. Networking platforms. Social media platforms like LinkedIn and targeted professional networks are used for relationship building and gaining access to opportunities. Professional and affirming organizations. Groups like Women of Color Research Network offer a built in community facilitating networking and providing guidance on navigating complex processes such as securing grants. So that was one of the results from my search on Google. And so the next digital literacy that I took a look at was implement. So let's go to implement and read the prompts. Okay, so this is a set of prompts for implement. How do you implement plans or strategies in your life? What steps do you take to ensure that your ideas are put into action effectively? Think about a time when implementing something new, for example, a new habit or process, led to positive results. What obstacles did you face during implementation and how did you overcome them? How can you improve your implementation skills for better success in personal or professional projects? Guiding questions for online search. Search for methods of implementation used by women, and once again, I made it more specific, used by Latinas, Afro Latinas, and Black women in business or tech. How do they overcome the common challenges of putting ideas into practice? Okay, so let's take a look at my responses. In my life, I implement plans or strategies through a reverse design or backwards planning approach. I identify what I want my end goal to be, and then I work backwards in order to determine the steps that I need to take to get to that action. In order to ensure that my ideas are put into action effectively, I take a look at the outcomes. For example, did I accomplish the task? For example, did I meet my savings goal of X amount of dollars? If I didn't meet my savings goal, I also take a look at how close I was able to get to achieving that goal. For example, did I make it 50% of the way? Or even to simplify it even more, did I save any money? Do I have more money saved than before? Or did I make decisions during that time period that will help me save more money in the future? For example, was I able to pay more on my mortgage principal during the allotted amount of time that I gave to myself to save money, which in turn will allow me to pay off my mortgage sooner and save myself money by having to pay less interest? This approach applies to many plans or strategies that I take in life, whether it's looking at my progress that I've made on Black-Liberation.Tech, the open educational resource and podcast, and even delivering workshops. For example, was I able to deliver the workshop That's number one. Did I implement a workshop that I am proud of? Was I able to include the interests of participants based on pre-workshop surveys? Were there any participants? 1 to 2 participants in my book counts as a success. People vote with their feet. And I also understand that people have a lot of things going on and they have to prioritize. Now, I also ask myself, did people ask questions or share during the workshop? I am not a lecturer and I want people to engage during workshops that I facilitate. Did participants complete the post-workshop survey? Did the participants leave any positive feedback on the post-workshop survey? What improvements can I make in the next workshop that I facilitate based on the constructive feedback and additional interest expressed by the participants, whether or not the same individuals participate in the next workshop? I can improve my implementation skills for better success in personal and professional projects by looking for what I count as success, as well as incorporating incrementally more and more of what others look for in what I do. So, how are they counting success? How do they measure success? What feedback are they providing to me? And what things did they actually enjoy the most about the workshop? And whatever they do enjoy, I make sure that I include that as well. Now, I'm not going to do it all because in reality, I'm not going to be able to be the best facilitator for everyone in a workshop. And that's a reality that I understand and accept. I also recognize that I can't do it all, and I'm really not going to do everything that someone suggests. I'm going to take the parts specifically that align with my values and use that to help improve how I move forward. Now, I want to revisit the second bullet. Think about a time when implementing something new, for example, a new habit or process, led to positive results. What obstacles did you face during implementation and how did you overcome them? Well, one of the things that I've done is that I updated my Jordan Nuance LLC website based on what I learned in a workshop. And as a result, the next time I attended a workshop where they actually viewed my website, I was able to get even more feedback on how my website performed, both by taking a look at analytics as well as what it was like for someone else to go through my website and hearing what they had to say about it. And as a result, I made adjustments myself to that website so that it benefits the user. So someone who doesn't know me, someone who is not me, in a way that helps them find what they're looking for, or just be able to get through it in a way that is more user friendly. Joining a workshop and being able to get insight from not only the facilitator of that workshop, but also participants, that helped me to make improvements in how I implemented my website. And so that's something that I can carry on in other spaces, whether it's website development, workshop development, and the like. So that was something new that I tried that led to positive results. Now, some obstacles that I faced when updating the Jordan Nuance website, they recommended, for example, that I needed to get my logo over to the far left side, and I didn't need to have something that necessarily said home in order to direct people back to the home. They can just hit the logo. With that, it was a challenge because I was using a template that did not have the logo set to the left side. And so I had to go through and think about how could I make this adjustment. I looked it up to see what could be done. And one of the recommendations was to go into the CSS code and make the adjustment there. And I was like, there just has to be another way. And what I ended up doing was going through the different theme options that were available to that site and actually found one that had it set so that the logo was set to the left, and choosing one that fit the aesthetic in terms of design that I was looking for, website design. And so I was able to face that challenge head on. It took some doing, but I was able to make some choices that improve my site based on the feedback that I received from them. Now, as I say that, the Black-Liberation.Tech website will also have some improvements done. But like I said, I can't do everything all at once. So right now I'm focusing on my Jordan Nuance LLC website. And so that was something that was beneficial when it came to implementing. Well, I do want to thank you for walking with me through this lesson thus far. We will continue next week with the remaining three, and then we'll work our way through the rest of the lesson. And I want you to share with me, what digital literacies do you want to work on based on this lesson? Or you can share with me, how do you go about researching things for life, academia, or your profession? How do you go about implementing plans or strategies so that you meet your goals, so that you are able to execute your thoughts and dreams? Share that with me in the comments. Ask your questions. What questions do you have for me based on what was shared? Once again, thank you for listening to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renee Jordan. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and share, rate, and review the podcast to help it become more discoverable. And until next time, take care. Bye bye.